Hello, everyone. I am Matthew, and I am a pre-sales engineer for Exalate. Today, I will show you how we can integrate Jira Cloud with Azure DevOps through Exalate. So let's get started. First thing that we need is we need to install Exalate on both the instances. So if we go to exalate.com/integrations, then here we will see all the issue trackers that we support, including Azure DevOps and Jira Cloud. So we go to this page and then we will click on the hyperlink in question, and then this is how we can get Exalate. So let's get started with Jira Cloud first. So on Jira Cloud, you can also get it from the Jira Marketplace App Store. And then after you install it, it will be under this app menu and then here Exalate. So if I open it up in a new tab, then here we can see the user interface. So this is the user interface of Exalate, and I will go through all of these in the demonstration. Because it's a decentralized solution, so that means that each side can line by line decide what they want to send and receive. I have to install it as well on Azure DevOps. So for Azure DevOps, I also go to the marketplace, I look for Exalate, and then here under this, I will go to manage extensions. If I open it up in a new tab, then here we can see it's exactly the same user interface. So it makes it really easy to connect. And also for any other issue trackers that we support, it is 100% the same user interface. So let's get started. These systems, they are not integrated at all right now. Take me on my word for that. So let's change that. So we go to one of the nodes and we can start from either side. So let's start from the Jira Cloud side and we go to connections. Here on connection, I will go to initiate connection, and here it says destination instance URL. So I will go and take the destination instance URL like this, and I will paste it here. I have three options. So option one is the basic option. So this is the free plan, which is limited to 1,000 things a month. This includes the summary, description, attachments, and comments, and the symbols cannot be edited. Then with the Exalate license, and you also have a 30-day free trial, you have a visual one and a script configuration mode. So there is two big differences between these two. The first one is the obvious one, is that the visual one is a visual interface and the script one is a script interface. So that was easy. The second difference is that the visual one is a more centralized approach, in the meaning that you need admin access on both sides because it's a drag and drop user interface. So that's the second difference. For the script mode, it is based on Groovy scripting and it's fully decentralized. So each side will have full control over what they send. So let's take the basic mode and let's click on next. Let's start with the basic mode. So if something is coming over from Azure DevOps, where are we going to populate it? So that is what we will decide here and we click next. So I do have admin access. So I will say I have admin access, but you saw there was also an option if you do not have admin access. So I clicked on it, and now Exalate is just going to verify, okay, is Exalate installed on the Azure DevOps side in this case. So we will now just accept it, and we select a project where the ticket will arrive into. So I confirm it, and the connection has been successfully established. So let's see it in action. If I go to Jira Cloud and I create a new ticket, so I say ticket 1 basic modes in Jira Cloud. More information here. I created. So let's tell this ticket, okay, please use the basic mode, the connection, and make a twin of yourself on Azure DevOps. So I can go here to Exalate, open Exalate. It's automatically added in the issue type. And then here I say Exalate. So you see Exalate and connect. Exalate means, okay, I want to create something on the other side. Connect means there is already something on the other side. I just want to make a sync between them. So let's do connect, and we will take the correct connection and we will Exalate. So as we can see, we will always know exactly where the ticket is. So let's see. We have a status synchronized and we have a remote link. So I can either click on the remote link or I can go to Azure DevOps and I can refresh, and here we can see the ticket has appeared. Perfect. So let's see the bi-directional aspect of Exalate. So I can, for example, say I received this in Azure DevOps, and this will reflect on the Jira Cloud side. So if I refresh, okay, let's go to Jira Cloud. Let's refresh the ticket, and let's just wait. So it is picked up on Azure DevOps, and it will get sent over to Jira Cloud. So here we can see some things happening. So first, this Exalate is the proxy user. You can change that. Then this Roman person is the person that is signed in Azure DevOps. So you have him, then the commented, and then the value of the comment. So this is bi-directional by default. You cannot change that. Let's do the second connection, and let's start from the Azure DevOps side this time. So we go to connections, we go to initiate connection, and we will put the URL in here. So let's take the visual mode, and let's say we want to integrate Azure DevOps with Jira Cloud, and let's rename it. Okay, and we click on next. So we need admin permissions on both sides. So let's establish the connection, and let's give Exalate a second for it to verify that Exalate exists on the other side and that this account has admin permissions. Okay, we can see that the connection has been established, so we can click on configure sync. So what is happening here? First, we are going to determine the scope, and then we are going to do the mappings. So the scope is basically saying, okay, which tickets should go to the other side. So let's say that from the project Mathieu, I want to have an automatic sync that goes to the project Mathieu on Jira Cloud. But I don't want to have every single ticket. Let me put a tag on it. So I only want to have sync tickets automatically when it has a tag and when it is made inside of this Mathieu project. Vice versa, I want every single thing that is created in Jira Cloud, I want all of that to go to Azure DevOps. So let's click on next. Let's publish it. And while this is getting published, let me talk a little bit about the mapping. So we can see here that out of the box, 10 fields are already pre-mapped. And then we can just say, okay, what do I want to have mapped in Azure DevOps to what in Jira Cloud, and how should the sync direction be? So for example, the tags, if I click here on edit, I can see here the sync direction and I can change that. So if I only want to have the tags go from Azure to Jira, I would put the second option. For example, for the status, if I click on edit connection, you will see that I have multiple options here and I can map all the statuses according to how my use case is. If there is no matching value, here I can say either put a default value, make an error, or do nothing. So let's see this in action. If I create a new work item, and let's say we name it ticket 2 visual mode. But I am not going to put the tag on it yet. So if I go here, I can see Exalate, it says not synchronized. Now I can, of course, click here on Exalate and manually do the sync, but I can also do it as how it is displayed inside of the settings. So we said if the tag here is added, the sync tag, okay, and save it. Let's see if Exalate picks it up. So Exalate is running this with webhooks, and the second that the query is completed, as you can see here, it is getting picked up. So right now, this ticket will go through the visual connection, through the mapping, and will get populated on Jira Cloud. And then this twin will be in bidirectional sync. So let's click the remote link. So I can only see this if I have permissions on Jira Cloud. So if I add a comment here, received the tickets in Jira Cloud, then we will see that this will reflect on Azure DevOps. I can also add an attachment. So let's add, for example, this Exalate picture and save it. And then we will see this again go to Azure DevOps. Here on Exalate, we will always know exactly where we are. So let's do a little exercise. So here we have the attachments as well. Here you have it. So let's say we have here a field called dog name, and I want to have that synced over to a field on Jira Cloud called, for example, color name. So how would I do that? I go to the connection. So I can either do this from the Azure DevOps side or from the Jira Cloud side. So I can do it here, but I can also do it in Jira Cloud. So let's go to the rules and let's say add mapping. And here we said dog name should be bidirectionally synced to color name. And then we save it. So let's publish this. And then when it's published, I will fill in the field and then we will see this go over to Jira Cloud. And bidirectional because that is how we configured the mapping. Okay, let's do it. So here we can save. I have a dog named Sky, so I'm going to populate her in this field. And then we will see this field go across to Jira Cloud. So we also have the labels here. And let's refresh this ticket. And here we see that the color name has now been populated. So this is now bidirectional. If I change this to blue, it will reflect on the Azure DevOps side. So this has been the visual mode, but let's now do the full capability of Exalate, which is the script mode. So to go to the script mode, let's start again. So we have our Jira Cloud here, and let's make a script mode. So we go to our connections, and I'm going to deactivate our visual connection because we have a trigger set up. So we want to start from 0 and we deactivate it. Okay, let's get started. So we click on initiate connection. We get a destination instance URL. So that means that we will get this base URL and we will place it here in this text box. And then let's go for the script mode. So we click on next and we want to integrate Jira Cloud with Azure DevOps. Okay, I click on next. If something is coming over from Azure, where shall we populate it? So that's what I'm going to put here as a value. And then here it's get interesting because we get a code. Because it's a decentralized solution and it is really useful to integrate two different departments or two different companies. You want a full decentralized aspect. So Exalate gives you a code and you can copy this code and you can send it over to the admin on the other side. And then he or she will go to connections and now accept invitation. So we are going to verify this connection. And the second screen is, okay, if something comes over, where are we populating it? So let's select that and let's confirm it. So I'm going to instantly click on configure sync and we go to this screen. So I also on Jira Cloud, if I go to connections and then here I see the connection active and I click on edit connection, I have the same exact screen. So what is happening here? You have an outgoing sync and an incoming sync. You have this on both sides. So an outgoing sync is sending over information while the incoming sync is assigning information that was sent over. So as we are on Jira Cloud right now, we are looking at the outgoing sync, which sends over information to Azure DevOps. Now, how does it send this over? Well, we have this replica package. So this is a JSON that contains all of the values of the fields on the right. So we have this issue key, issue type, issue assignee. So we take the values of that, we put it into this replica object, and we send that over with HTTPS and TLS 1.2 encryption over to Azure. So the outgoing sync of Jira Cloud becomes the incoming sync of Azure DevOps. So if it is the first sync, we are assigning it to a project. Then we are assigning a type name with a default value if it doesn't find the same type as Jira Cloud. Then we are taking the values of this replica, which contains the Jira Cloud issue. So all the fields of the Jira Cloud issue. So this replica.summary is the summary of the Jira Cloud issue, and we are assigning that to the summary of the work item. Vice versa, same thing happens. So outgoing sync is sending over information. As we are on Azure DevOps right now, the outgoing sync is sending over information to Jira Cloud, and then on Jira Cloud, we are assigning it exactly the same. So let's get started. Let's make a new work item or a new ticket. Let's start on Jira Cloud and let's say create a task, say ticket 3, script mode. So more information here, and I create it. So there is two ways to send this over. the manual way, as we know it in the basic mode. So we click here on Exalate, open Exalate, and we select our correct connection. And then according to the scripts, all the information will flow over. So unlimited amount of fields, but there is also an automatic way. So let's do the manual way first. So we can see it's already synchronized. We go to Azure DevOps, we go to the work item. Here it is. I can make a comment here and it will appear again on Jira Cloud. So this is the manual way, but we can of course automate it. So to automate it, we use triggers. So on Jira, it's really easy. You click here on search and you go advanced issue search, and you are going to make a query. So imagine I want to sync over every single ticket that's created inside of project Mathieu demo. I will click here on search and I will copy this. I go to my connections. So connections, I go to not rules, but triggers. Also here you have triggers. So it's the same screen. And then here we are going to make a trigger. So I want to sync over every single ticket that's created in Jira Cloud in that project. So I will make the trigger in Jira Cloud. So I can say here, create trigger, and I just paste here the GQL. Then if this is true, I will sync with our connection and I make it active. So let's create it. So this is how to automate it. Now, there is a really neat feature about Exalate, which means that you can sync over a history of tickets, because this trigger will only work for create and update events from the time that the trigger has been published and it's active. Now imagine I have 10,000 tickets and I want to sync them over to Azure DevOps. I'm not going to update those 10,000 tickets so they match this query. I can, if I click on the three dots here, I can let Exalate iterate over the whole instance of where the trigger is created, and then with bulk Exalate, I can sync over all those tickets at once. So if I click bulk Exalate, those 6 items will go to Azure DevOps. So let's go back to our initial ticket. Let's see the comment that has been appeared, and now let's do it with the trigger. So this ticket for script modes, trigger way, this will go over automatically through the script modes. Okay. Now let's play around with this while this is going over to Azure DevOps. So we have, for example, let's say we do the same as the visual mode. So we will make the doc name go over from Azure DevOps to the color name on Jira Cloud. So how to do that is, first things first, I need to put this doc name inside of the outgoing sync. So I will just, you can see you hover over it, it says doc name. So I can go to the outgoing sync. There is some dummy code here, so I can just paste it here. So we set doc name, and I'm populating that into this replica object. So let's publish this. So what I'm going to show you now is, so if I put here sky is the limit, then I will show you how we can verify if this value appeared on the Jira Cloud side. So if I see here the comment, then I know this sync happened. So I can take the ID, so MAT318, and I can go to entity sync status. And here, I will put in the entity sync status and click search. So I have more information about it. So local replica means what am I constructing in Jira Cloud? And remote replica means what is getting sent over from Azure DevOps. Now, rest assured, you also have this exact screen in Azure DevOps. Then it will be what's coming over from Jira Cloud and what am I constructing in Azure DevOps. So if I click show remote replica, then here we will see what is coming over from Azure DevOps, including here the custom field doc name. So what happens if I want to put these fields inside of color name? Then it's really easy. I go to the incoming sync because we are assigning information. And then I click here on edit connection. On the incoming sync, I have some dummy code like user synchronization, comment synchronization, status synchronization, and custom fields. So we are interested into the custom fields for this first practice. And here we know, okay, well, how is it coming over? Replica.custom fields. So replica is hub issue. So replica.custom-fields.doc name. And then we are interested in sky's the limit, so dot value. So I have to put here this and then dot value, which is already here. And we are going to assign it to the field called color name. So I can just copy paste this, put it here, and then we will see it go over. So let's add an update, because as we know, Exalate works with create and update events, and then this will go over to Jira Cloud where it will be populated. So for the second exercise, we're going to map statuses. So let's say if a status goes to a certain state in Jira Cloud, then it needs to go to a certain state in Azure DevOps. So here we can see the field appeared. So to do that, first we need to send over the status. So let's go to the outgoing sync. Up here we can see we are sending over the status. Great. So now only thing which is left is to map this on Azure DevOps. So let's say we want to map the status in progress to on Azure DevOps to, for example, accepted. Doesn't make sense. I just want to show you how customizable it is. So we go to the incoming sync. And here also dummy code status synchronization. So let's put that here. And this is on the basis of remote status colon local status. So we set here in progress should be accepted. Okay. We take the replica status name, as we know how to get that with the entity sync status. We put it into a variable, and then we set the status of the Azure DevOps work item according to the hash map that we created. If that doesn't exist, we can put it into a default value like open. Okay, now let me by force make an error. So I make a spelling mistake. Let's see how Exalate will handle that. So I will put this into in progress, and then this should normally go to accepted. But I have made a default value, so it will go to open. Let's see. So it will go to accepted. Let's refresh, and then here we will see that there will be an error because nothing is happening. So you can see here status error. So I can go to Azure DevOps and I can see here the errors, and let's see what this says. Details. Bad response when updating work item. The field state contains the value accepted, which is not in the list of supported values with a stack trace. So that's beautiful. You have all of these added functionality inside of Exalate. You have the remote replica, the local replica, and you can copy the stack trace to your clipboard. So we know that this accepted doesn't exist. So we just go to the connection here, and then we will put the right spelling, accepted. Here you can see publish and resolve. So that means that no information will ever be lost. It's just stuck with an error. If we resolve it, we will try it again. So no information will be lost. Let's go to here and we instantly see it go to accepted. Perfect. So this is how Exalate works, the basic mode, the visual mode, and the script mode. I hope it has been interesting and you learned something. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop a comment, and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.